While it might not go down as an official trade, basically there was a crew chief trade that just happened in the NASCAR Cup Series. Trackhouse Racing and Kaulig Racing both had crew chiefs. Crew chief from Trackhouse went over to Kaulig. Crew chief from Kaulig went over to Trackhouse. I mean, it's pretty much a straight up trade. I mean, it's not legally or technically or whateverly, but that seems like what happened. This is basically what happened a few years ago with Chris Buescher and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Remember, Buescher went from JTG Doherty to Roush. Stenhouse went from Roush to JTG Doherty. Not, once again, not an official trade, but that's basically the best way to describe it without other complications, but I made it more complicated because it wasn't a trade. Anyways, the former crew chief of Daniel Suarez, Travis Mack, is moving over to Kaulig, and Kaulig's Cup Series crew chief, Matt Swiderski, I probably pronounced that wrong. I'm going to take another swing at that. Matt Swiderski. I think that was it the second time. I butchered it the first time, but he will be moving over to Trackhouse to be Daniel Suarez's new crew chief in 2024. Both these guys have had Cup Series wins as crew chiefs. Of course, Travis Mack was with Daniel Suarez when he won his one and only Cup Series race. When you look at Travis Mack's crew chief statistics, that is his one and only win in the Cup Series. He has worked with other drivers, but for the most part, it has been Daniel Suarez. He was Daniel Suarez's crew chief all 3 years at Trackhouse, or up to this point at Trackhouse. He's also crew chief for Casey Kane in 2018 and Dale Earnhardt Jr. for 2 races in 2017. And I think something he did before that, he was at Hendrick. I think he was the car chief for Dale Jr. He's also worked for Dale Jr. in the Xfinity Series. He was the crew chief for Michael Annett for 3 seasons. So, yeah, Travis Mack, he's got a good chunk of crew chiefing experience. But as for Daniel Suarez, 1 win, 10 top 10s, 10 top 5s, 27 top 10s. Apologies for misreading that. And also 1 pole, but ultimately he is going to be going to Kaulig. Now, I don't know if this was a mutual decision, if this was Mack leaving Trackhouse, if this was Trackhouse asking him to go elsewhere, they wanted to make a change. But it will be interesting to see how Daniel Suarez does with a new crew chief. Once again, Suarez, he's had 3 years with Mack. He's had some consistency, some stability in the Cup Series for the first time in his career. Remember, Daniel Suarez, his Cup Series career has been up and down. Very early on in his Cup Series career, got promoted to Joe Gibbs Racing's Cup Series team because Carl Edwards out of nowhere retired. Suarez was in the 19 car in 2017, 2018 as well, I believe, and then 2019 is when he was booted out for Truex and he went to Stewart-Haas Racing. Only got 1 year at Stewart-Haas Racing. Then he went to the Gaunt Brothers for a year, or I think just 1 single year in 2020. And then 2021, he ended up at Trackhouse Racing, the new team in 2021. And he has been there ever since. He's had contract extensions. He's once again had stability, something he hasn't had a lot of in his career. And he's had a familiar crew chief, someone that he's now been with for 3 years. And 2022 seemed like, that was the best they had performed. They had the win at Sonoma. They had made the playoffs. They actually were doing pretty well, but then it seemed like they took a little bit of a step back in 2023. Half the top 5s, a few less top 10s, and went winless. And they missed the playoffs as well, and that hurt, I'm sure, for Trackhouse, and I'm sure that hurt for Daniel Suarez as well. And maybe they just felt like they needed to change the step backwards in year 3. They just wanted to see a change, or maybe it truly was Travis Mack going elsewhere. But Kaulig, in terms of what they had to say, he's going to be on the 16 car this year. Here's what they said. Travis Mack has joined Kaulig Racing and will serve as a dual role as technical director, Cup teams, and crew chief of the number 16 Chevrolet. Trent Owens will continue to crew chief the number 31 Chevrolet in 2024. So the 31 car for Kaulig is going to have the same crew chief, but the driver will be different. Of course, it was Justin Haley the past couple of years, but now it will be Daniel Hemrick in that car. He has been promoted back to the Cup Series. Remember, he was at RCR 5 years ago now in 2019. 2019 was half a decade ago. That's too much math for me. Anyways, so this is a change for Kaulig because we don't know what's going to happen with that 16 car. We know it's going to probably be a part-time shuffling like they had a couple of years ago. AJ Allmendinger is going to be in the 16 car at the Daytona 500, but beyond that, no idea. AJ Allmendinger is probably going to run a part-time schedule, run the road courses as he normally does, maybe some super speedways. But we know that he's going to be in the 500. We know that he's going to be full-time Xfinity. The rest of the 16's future, I don't know what to expect. But now we do know for sure who the crew chief's going to be. It's going to be Travis Mack, former Daniel Suarez crew chief. Once the 16 has more of a, foreseeable future for the drivers, I'll update you on that. As for the second part of this trade, Matt Swiderski. Once again, not sure if I pronounced that right, but he was the former crew chief at Kaulig Racing. He has been the crew chief over there for the Cup Series team. He has been there. I think he's done some work with the Xfinity Series team, but he has actually 2 career wins as a Cup Series crew chief. He's worked with multiple drivers. He's worked with AJ Allmendinger, Kaz Grala, Justin Haley, Noah Gragson, Daniel Hemrick, and he has, as I said, 2 wins. Both of those wins were with AJ Allmendinger most recently this past fall at the Charlotte Roval. That other win coming in 2021 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. So both of those wins with Allmendinger on a road course. And of course, the Charlotte Roval this past fall, big win for Allmendinger, big win for Kaulig. No, they weren't in the playoffs, but still a Cup Series win is a Cup Series win. And Swiderski getting himself another Cup Series win, ultimately given him, I guess, the option to what he wanted to do. And he is now at Trackhouse. Here's what the Trackhouse press release said. Trackhouse Racing announced today that Matt Swiderski will join the organization as the crew chief of the number 99 Chevrolet Camaro ZL1 and driver Daniel Suarez for the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series season. Matt is a proven winner with a dynamic engineering background, and we are confident he will pair well with Daniel, said Trackhouse founder and owner Justin Marks. They give some biological information about Matt Swiderski, where he's been in his career, what he's done, all that fun stuff. But then we go down to his quote. Everyone sees what Trackhouse Racing is building, and I am thankful for the opportunity to come to a winning organization and lead the number 99 team, said Swiderski. I am looking forward to working with Daniel. We are both striving to achieve the same thing, winning. Every day we are going to work on perfecting the next steps that it takes to get more wins and compete for a championship. So yes, Trackhouse, obviously a championship caliber team in the Cup Series. It has shown ever since the next-gen car, making the championship 4 a couple of years ago with Ross Chastain, still winning a couple of races last season with Ross Chastain, making the playoffs with both cars in 2022. So Trackhouse has shown that they can win races. They can compete for championships. And it looks like that's what they're, once again, trying to do. They got a new crew chief on top of the pit box for Daniel Suarez. I'm curious to see how this works out. Obviously, last year was a disappointing year for Daniel Suarez, not getting a win, missing the playoffs. But this year, I think is going to be a big year for him, or I think it needs to be a big year for him, I should say. I'm not saying he has to go out, win 6 races, be in the championship 4 or whatever. But I think making the playoffs, they got to do that. Suarez, he's got to make the playoffs, in my opinion, in order to be a little bit more confident in 2024 or beyond 2024. And maybe a crew chief change. Maybe this is something he needed. But we'll see if they can improve on last year. Obviously, once again, last year was a down year compared to 2022. But we'll see what Suarez can ultimately do with his new crew chief, Matt Swiderski. As for the 16 car, it's going to be a part-time schedule for all the drivers there. We don't know what's going to happen ultimately with that driver announcement, that driver schedule. But we do know for sure that they will have Travis Mack as the crew chief on the number 16 car in 2024. Any other news on crew chiefs or whatnot, I will let you know. I have a video planned for later this week about spotters. We talk about driver changes. We're talking about crew chief changes today. Well, we're going to talk about a lot of spotter changes later in the week. There have been quite a few with some big name drivers. So I'm going to kind of break that all down for you, tell you who's gone from which car to, the other car, all that fun stuff. But thanks for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. I think it's the first day in 2022. I made multiple videos in a day, so that's fun.